1813. The Americans occupy part of Niagara. They sit inside a local home plotting more raids against the British. Laura Secord overhears their conversation. Someone has to warn the British. But her husband, a British officer, is wounded. Her children are young, and there is only one person who can do the job.
I'll have to be careful. Enemy patrols are everywhere. But I must warn the British about the American attack.
What happens next turns a housewife into a legend. Spring 1813. The United States and Britain have been at war for nearly a year. The Americans want Britain out of North America. Britain defends its territory, but has few troops to spare for the conflict. In Upper Canada, the two nations battle to control the all-important Niagara Peninsula, heart of the supply lines for the Great Lakes region. The Americans control a 12-kilometer strip along the Canadian side of the Niagara River. For the civilians, life is filled with uncertainty and danger.
I used to have no quarrel with the Americans. I'm from Massachusetts. But Upper Canada is my home, and these soldiers are invaders.
But if an army crossed the river to take offensive operations, you could very soon have American troops in your village, in your house. They could be threatening you. They could be taking your possessions. They could be killing members of your family.
When soldiers would occupy a village, the first thing they do is smash out all the windows. So you'd smash the windows out so you could shoot from whoever's house you've occupied. The furniture becomes material to build obstacles with, slow the enemy down, and it becomes the firewood that you're going to cook your lunch with.
Laura Secord lives in the village of Queenston, a strategic waypoint for goods traveling on the Niagara River. By the spring of 1813, many residents here have witnessed the war firsthand.
When James marched off with the militia, I had few worries. Just a day of training a year for the King's birthday and all's well. So I thought. And then the Americans invaded.
Experiencing what she had along the Niagara frontier would have influenced Laura Secord to a great degree. She would have seen the effects of the battle. She would have seen the destruction.
They fought the Battle of Queenston Heights right beside my town. My husband James was there fighting, and he didn't come back. After the gun stopped, I went to the battlefield to find him.
During the course of battle, women would be away from the battlefield, but as it was ending or ended, they would be on the field looking for their spouses. Sometimes their spouse was okay, other times they weren't.
The story's always gone that she went up on the heights to find James above the village, and that's where she finds him, and with the help of others, gets him back down to the village. He's shot through the leg and through the shoulder, so he's been hit twice by musket fire. Not a joke by even modern firearm standards. These are huge projectiles, 3/4 of an inch across, flying through the air. So he's in pretty rough shape.
The British won the Battle of Queenston Heights, but the Secords paid dearly for it. James is still wounded, recovering at home when the Americans attack again. May of 1813. 6,000 American troops bombard Fort George. The British fort is defended by just over 1,200 men. The Americans take Fort George, their first major victory of the war. The following month, the battle rages on. Land is won and lost. The war takes on a deadly ebb and flow. Legend tells us that during one of the U.S. occupations of Queenston, 3 American officers are billeted in the Secord home. Lying in his bed, the disabled James Secord poses no threat. And Laura, after all, is just a woman.
Americans pay no attention to me, as long as I keep them fed.
Women in society during the period of the War of 1812 had a limited role in society. Even those women who were in the upper strata of society may have been educated, involved in various activities, but they had very limited political authority, pull, if you will. They had access to wealth, but they couldn't control it. So in the midst of this war, women find themselves in the path of this, and they're affected in different ways. You have the civilian women living in the areas where the campaigns occur that experience different things. Some of them are killed in the course of the various raids that occur.
The Americans occupying this area face a serious logistical problem. They hold Fort George, but little else, thanks in part to the efforts of Lieutenant James Fitzgibbon.
James Fitzgibbon was conducting raids against the Americans and harassing them.
These are the ruins of DeQ House. Fitzgibbon sets up a makeshift headquarters here. With the help of more than 100 Aboriginal allies, he attacks the Americans again and again. The Americans have had enough.
So the goal is you take out Fitzgibbon's headquarters. This would disrupt the operations of not only Fitzgibbon and his handful of volunteers, but the greater threat would have been these large numbers of native warriors that could roam around and ambush American reconnaissance patrols or foraging parties who are looking for supplies or foods.
If the Americans can remove Fitzgibbon and his natives, there would be very little to stop them from capturing the entire Niagara region. It could turn the tide of the war. They begin to plan a strategy. According to legend, Laura Secord is there.
They were bragging about some plan they had to attack the British outpost at Beaver Dam. And Laura Secord overheard this.
They were full of stories of themselves and their victories, and they were bragging of their plan to attack our forces at Beaver Dams. I paid close attention and learned all I could.
Laura Secord realizes she has military intelligence that could save lives.
I think Laura Secord had every reason in the world to do nothing. She had a wounded husband to look after. She had 5 kids to look after.
Laura knows she must act quickly, or her warning will come too late. June 22nd, 1813. Laura Secord is convinced that an American attack on British forces in Niagara is imminent.
James is in no condition to help. Should I go to Beaver Dams myself and warn them of their danger?
I think for the most part, Laura Secord would have been terrified. Not for her own safety, but she would have been terrified for the safety of her family and her friends.
James looked at me and whispered, "Laura, our British soldiers must be warned." But with James so weak, there's no one to take the message but me. It'll be all right. If only I avoid the American patrols, get back before I missed. But I'll have to go soon, or I'll be too late to save them.
I think Laura Secord was pretty brave. Not many women during her time period or this time period would have gone out and taken a message like that, knowing the impending danger that there was.
I know this region well enough, but the Americans will surely be patrolling. At some point, I will have to lead the road and travel through the bush.
She was looking for Lieutenant Fitzgibbon, which she knew was further inland, a trek of about 20 miles that she would have to undertake.
The hardest part is saying goodbye to the children. I can't tell them everything, only that I have to go, and I'll be back soon.
Laura Secord, at some point, has to tell her eldest daughter that she's going to go on this trip. It's an account that comes later from a granddaughter that said she spoke to her children, or at least her eldest, to explain that she was leaving. I think that's a pretty powerful moment.
I don't see any Americans, but I don't want to be seen. Perhaps if I leave at dawn. I've heard that there are British forces stationed somewhere near Beaver Dam. I'll have to cross 12 Mile Creek somehow. It might take me all day to get there.
She knew she couldn't go on the main roads because she would be stopped. There were American patrols out, troops all over the place.
The train would have been very tough going. You're hiking up the escarpment several times by the way that she would have gone. You're going through streams, across little creeks. She's hopping over fallen trees by her accounts. So it would have been rough for her.
Now that the sun is high, it's very hot. And then there's the insects.
Her outfit would not have been suitable at all to go on this long walk. It's the hottest day of the year, so you're wearing a lot of layers to go hiking. Floor-length dress is going to get caught on everything, and basically what we know now is ballet flats. So flat shoes, no support, easily come off. So it's very difficult to go hiking in them for sure.
As I walk, I rehearse in my mind what I will have to say. My name is Laura Secord. I need to speak to your commanding officer. You're all in danger from an American attack.
This is pretty rough terrain, and she is not stopping to ask anybody for help. Because again, there's a sense that she's not sure who she can trust out of the population. So not only are there human obstacles out there, not just Americans, but also Canadians who may not be that loyal to the Crown.
Laura also has another concern: First Nations warriors.
The natives frighten me. I most support the British here in Upper Canada, but I've heard that some are fighting for the American side.
She's a little worried about who she's going to run into, has a fear of these native warriors.
Laura's journey is long. There is no straight path. She is thought to have walked first to the nearby town of St. David's, then west and slightly north to what is now St. Catharines, before leaving the road to reach her destination through the bush.
I was thankful to discover a fallen tree that would help me cross 12 Mile Creek. I was so thirsty from the heat. I had to keep my spirits up by reminding myself the importance of each and every step. After walking for 17 hours, I finally met a group of natives. My heart was pounding, but I had to take a chance that they were friendly.
In a letter that she had written, she said that she ran into these natives. She was scared. She didn't know who they were allied with, so she tried to get her point across that she needed to get to Fitzgibbon.
I kept repeating, I need to speak to your commanding officer. I have vital information about an attack. Woman. That's all he said.
It would have been hard to make herself understood. But the fact that she had desperation in her voice and the appearance she would have had after hiking for like 14, 15 hours definitely would have showed that there was some sort of importance to the message. So if she was able to get out Fitzgibbon and they recognized the name, it would help.
It's dark. The natives lead Laura to the Q house.
I told Fitzgibbon what I know. I said I overheard the Americans planning an attack. I feared for your lives, and so I came to warn you. Now all I can think of is getting home.
With her message delivered, Laura Secord returns home. Fitzgibbon and his native allies prepare an ambush, but there's no sign of an American attack. It begins to look like Laura Secord may have been the victim of a hoax. June 22nd, 1813. Laura Secord has traveled to the Q house to warn British forces under James Fitzgibbon that an American attack is imminent. Fitzgibbon's native allies prepare an ambush, but the Americans do not appear.
So they began to doubt her story. Maybe she had heard from an unreliable source. Being a woman too, they would definitely question where the information was coming from.
They thought I was mistaken or foolish. I don't know. But I know what I heard.
It is at this moment, with many around him doubting Laura Secord's story, that James Fitzgibbon proves his mettle as a leader.
As a professional British soldier who'd been in the ranks, he'd been a sergeant before he'd become an officer. This woman comes into your headquarters and tells you this account. You could have easily discounted that and ignored that. So back to credit, some credit goes to Fitzgibbon for acknowledging that, that not only was the information helpful, but it was good information that you could act upon.
June 23rd, Fitzgibbon gets word that more than 600 Americans are on the move from Fort George. They have artillery, mounted dragoons, some say gunpowder to blow up the house. Fitzgibbon has only 46 British soldiers. This battle will be fought almost entirely by his native allies. The Aboriginal warriors move swiftly. They set up an ambush.
The Americans marched straight into the trap, thanks to me.
It's a running fight. Obviously, the native warriors are employing more ambush-style tactics, taking turns, taking pot shots at the Americans, and really slowing the Americans down, wearing them down till the Americans end up in a clear area, in an area that's often described as the beach woods. And this is where they make their stand.
No one knows for certain exactly how the battle unfolded. The Americans have an overwhelming force. Yet, after only 3 hours of battle, they surrender.
It's true that British reinforcements were on their way, but I think that it was the fierce reputation of the natives that convinced the Americans to give in.
You're an American soldier, you shot off a lot of your ammunition, you're hot, you're exhausted, and now the best infantry in the world are going to show up, along with these fierce native warriors taking pot shots at you. So this is a pretty scary situation to be in, and that's why Colonel Borsler decides to surrender.
The victory keeps the Americans penned into a small area of Niagara. Shortly after, they abandon Fort George and retreat to the United States.
Laura didn't get any credit immediately after the fact. She actually kept quiet about what she had done.
Years later, she becomes determined to get her due.
I did as much as any veteran that day. And I wrote to Fitzgibbon to ask him to support me, to tell them what I did.
He says 3 times over the next 3 decades in writing that the information she gave was helpful in the victory at the Battle of Beaver Dams, which was a complete defeat for the U.S. forces. Only a handful of men get away, who happen to be on horseback and ride off before they get captured with the other almost 500 American troops.
People question the story about Laura a lot, but the fact that Fitzgibbon was willing to write these letters in the first place shows that he believed it was important.
So a fairly fair-minded guy later in life who could have taken all the credit for what happened at Beaver Dams, but he chose to let people know that other folks were responsible.
Fitzgibbon was very kind, but still I got nothing.
Lots of veteran stories were getting out there. The Prince of Wales was getting a scroll with all the veterans' names on it, so she wanted her story known.
Then I heard that the Prince Regent was coming to Queenston to dedicate Brock's monument. I decided I should go and sign my name next to all the men.
The prince got the scroll, asked about her story being the only female on the list, and was so impressed he sent her £100 sterling for duty to the king.
Thanks to the money from the prince, I lived out my remaining years in Chippewa quite happily. My daughter cared for me until the end.
She physically underwent this long, arduous journey through very difficult conditions to get this information out. That resolve is something that we can respect.
I know what people said about me when I signed that scroll, that I'm just a woman, that I'm a braggart, but I'm proud of what I did to save this country and my home.